We're getting into a status conversation this hour, and we're looking at there's a burden in the country. Where have we dropped the ball? And our guest for the hour in the hot seat this morning is Janet Ouko. She's an education expert and executive director of Tunza Mtoto Coalition, and she's our guest this hour. Janet, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you always.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad that you can be here. Mm-hmm. There are many balls up in there. These are not even hot potatoes. They're fireballs. They're burning our fingers, throwing them and saying, yeah, what are we doing? But somebody dropped it and it has then now multiplied into very many balls that we're throwing up. But we're going to deal with two of them today. And those are education and health. And we're going to say, okay, so where are we? And where did we drop it? But the proverb for today is a really interesting one. And Citi has gone to Cabo Verde to bring us that proverb. This guy's lucky he gets to travel. He's racking up those miles. So he's going to proverb from Cabo Verde.
Yes. Otherwise, people know it as Cape Verde. Well, rats don't dance in the cat's doorway.
Why is that they don't? Here we do. Here we do.
I told you.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you, Janet? How would you interpret that?
Cats
don't dance in the cat's doorway.
In the dogs. Huh?
Rats don't dance in the cat's doorway.
Of course, they appreciate the consequences of doing that. So it's only wise rats that don't do that.
Yes.
You would find foolish ones dancing anyway. And when they start being consumed, they now start yelling that there is a problem. But they were forewarned.
Right.
I think that very well describes our situation in the country today.
It does, eh?
Yeah, it does perfectly. You're told don't go close to a corrupt politician. Don't give them responsibility to watch over your finances. But you do anyway. You
cry later.
Then you cry later.
Okay, guns blazing, everything out of the holster. Let's go shooting from the hip this morning. And so we are saying there are certain things that don't seem to be going wrong. Okay, there's some things we've seen some relief from, isn't it? Whether they want to be called artificial, whatever. Fuel prices have gone down for the 5th consecutive month. Yes, good. The shilling against the USD has dropped about 30 points in the last 1 month. So okay, is that good? Yes, good. However, there's some things that are hitting us in the face day in, day out. The doctors are on the street. We're in the middle of this yesterday. They're outside Parliament. In another 2 days, they'll be at the next place. Education, schools are on break, but there seems to be, something. So let's start with the health part of it right now, and then we'll come to education later, which we know, of course, that you're, well versed in a lot of these areas. Health. Where did we drop the ball? What is going on? As the fire continues to rage, more and more people are not pouring water on the fire, but they're joining and putting firewood in the furnace. Why? What's going on?
Yeah, I think we are existing. I'm avoiding the word living in a very tough period of time. I say tough because we see a lot of information being manipulated to suit a certain narrative. And people that are doing that want to, I think the laws of economics have been thoroughly challenged, that one person could be standing at a table and telling us the economy of the country is doing so well, and another section of Kenyans is really not feeling how that economy that is doing so well is affecting them. And I want us to look at the crisis in health today and think about the cabinet secretary for health, and who, with a lot of respect, has thoroughly mismanaged the crisis that we have at current. That tells you something. And I don't want to really focus on the cabinet secretary for health, because with her, Kenyans do not have any contract. But Kenyans have a contract with the appointing authority of someone like the cabinet secretary. And that particular person, I would want to look at them this morning and ask them if they are proud of the person they put at the helm of the sector. If they are, it tells me something about them. They don't care. For them, it's managing. It's managing Kenyans. I throw in prices of milk have dropped. I throw in maize is a piece. I throw in fuel, But if it really hurts the head of state, I would want him to visit Mbagathi. I would want him to visit Mama Lucy. And then he comes back and sits and continue issuing the threats and a narrative that doctors of this country are well paid. It takes leadership to sit down with the doctors, listen to them, and solve the problem. It is not always a narrative of I'm correct, I must make tough decisions, for the long term. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. So the persons that are losing their loved ones after your good self and after your beautiful narrative, what conversation do you want to have with those people? And then if you look at how really we are managing the health sector, it's so much so underfunded. According to international benchmarks, and I'm talking about the Abuja Declaration, we're supposed to be spending about 15% of our budget on health. We are barely doing half. We are actually doing 7%. And even that 7%, there is no fidelity in ensuring that the entire 7% goes to health. Even in that 7%, we know in this country that health is devolved. Sometimes I look at governors and I really pity them. Because the national government decides, I am not sending this money today, I am sending this money this other day. Meanwhile, our dispensaries that according to the universal healthcare coverage policies are supposed to not be charging their clients.
Yes.
But when you don't send money, and when you do, you don't even send that money timely, and then you want to send them in the percentages that you want to. So really, how would governors in this country be expected to manage health? And with that background, I really don't want us to get into the technical issues. We really must rise high up there and ask ourselves, how did we get there? And this is how we got there.
Let's look at it historically a little bit, Janet, because there's an argument, and I think it's really made the rounds here that, a lot of the issues that are being agitated for by the medical workers, because it's not just doctors anymore. We've seen that everybody seems to have joined, and across cadres, they've joined, and they said, you know what, this is enough. So we're looking at historical issues, whether we want to bring in a 2017 to 2021 CBA. I mean, all of this has been put in the public arena for discussion over the last month and prior to that. So we're looking, unfortunately, at a series of mismanagement of a process. It doesn't matter. We can talk about the CS Nakumicha today and talk about presently what is being mismanaged in terms of the process. But can we do that void of the mismanagement of the process from 2017, which was 7 years ago, until today, where some of the issues whereby they're saying complete what we agreed over 4 years, complete what we agreed over 7 years ago. It was signed. I don't care whether it was a political agreement. I don't care whether somebody was just trying to say, let's just save our skin for now so that these guys can go back to work and clean the egg off our face. There was a mismanagement of a process, and it was historical in nature. Today is just reliving what was done 7 years ago. How do we account for that?
And you see that that narrative of us looking at every problem and wanting to escape it by saying it is not me. It is not me that agreed to it. It was somebody else. You don't even want to really be colors and have this candid conversation. You that is saying it is not you. We know where you sat on the tables, even during that particular time, 7 years ago. You were not a mamamboga. You sat on the tables. You were there. Show us your voice. That particular time. What did you say? If at that particular time, if you knew that it was unrealistic, and you were not a nobody, matter of fact, you were second in command. Show us your voice that day. If you did not speak that time, can you own up? And it is not even a conversation of whether it was realistic or it wasn't, it's about constitutionalism and attempting to show this country that you have some little respect for life, you have some little respect for human dignity. If you go down there and see how citizens of this country are suffering in hospitals, no one to attend to them, and that alone really washes away all these other issues that we want. Because it is not only in this doctor's strike issue that we have listened to this conversation that it was not me. a lot of the things, what is it that this government is owning up to? Everything about it. That's it is not me. These are things that were done. And where were you that particular time? And what did you say that time when all these bad things were happening? Where is your voice? Show us your voice. What did you say? So I think what we are looking at current is, do we have leaders that really believe in constitutionalism? Do we have shared values anymore? Or are we looking at people that are in business, transacting, moving a day at a time, forging and dodging citizens, developing this narrative today, and then tomorrow when it turns out the other day? I want to refer you to one thing. That during the time when the cost of fuel was high, the head of state said that he was not responsible for the circumstances that are making the cost of fuel. It is a global phenomenon. Now that the prices are dropping a little, he is there owning up and saying that it is because I did this, it is because I did the other, it is because I did the other. Consistency, insincerity, conmanship, dodging, narrative development, sloganeering. No, we've lost it. We cannot run a country like that. And that is why, speak about health. We know what is ailing the health sector. We have a government that does not believe in UHC. We have a government that believes in a narrative to run it for 3 months. If we can dodge this, if we can develop this slogan, we don't do that. Look at this. How would you have a shopkeeper coming in to a shop selling milk for 5 shillings when the other shopkeeper was selling it at 3 shillings? Then 2 months in between, you lower that milk by 4 shillings. And then you come here and tell us that I have done this, I have done. No, all of us are sad. We were used to buying milk at 3 shillings. Yeah. We know that you increased it to. So lowering it by 4 shillings, you're still stealing from us. We still are sad, And those are the things that Kenyans, we ourselves are not honest people. Kenyans themselves are not honest people. Because Kenyans choose when to tell their leaders and what to tell them. If you're benefiting from that particular regime, you will see people silencing us and telling us, no, you're fighting our government. You're fighting our government. My friend, I have a medical cover. Yes, I am fighting for you. Who, when you hit by a motorbike on the road, you will be in Bagavi. There is no drug. There is nothing. You don't even have NHIF. You don't even know how NHIF is working. And you cannot let people talk when they're telling your government, please, this is our country. I am not speaking like this because tomorrow I want to require the services on Pagati. I'm speaking like this because I know. And that's why you see a lot of Kenyans are silent. You know why Kenyans are silent? Because the burden carriers of this country are the middle class. They are the burden carriers. But a while ago, there's another cadre of people that were called hustlers. And they were told, this is your country, you are the ones who will do ABCD. Today, look at your payslip. Today, you are the burden carrier. Every of your deductions that is going to government, that notwithstanding, your sick mother at home, if you have somebody that is a pensioner, you're the one who is carrying that burden. If they have a toothache, I'm very sure a phone call will come to you right about today. Kenyans have got every reason to be angry. And while we are at it, we also owe ourselves to tell ourselves the truth, that we are also not an honest people. We do not deserve honest leaders, because when leaders come to us, we do not tell them that no, this we are not doing. Let me tell you, in countries where people are a little more civilized, would you have a situation like the one we're having today? We have a collapsed healthcare system. Collapsed. Let anybody go to any healthcare facility today and be attended to. It is collapsed completely.
Do you think one of the major issues, for example, that faces us with this health crisis, whereby they're saying let the interns that who essentially need a license to then be able to operate as doctors in this country, they must go for this 1-year internship, okay? And they're asking for this, obviously, this pay. And now we are being told, okay, well, we're going to pay you less than half of that, and maybe we can have a conversation about that. Do you think this issue of posting them and paying them is going to solve the health crisis in the country?
Let me tell you, I am with the doctors 100%. Let them demand the amount of money they want to demand. Yesterday, Parliament of this country approved CAS positions. Let nobody tell anybody that there is no money. We have got money in this country. Yes, we have money, but we have money to pay idlers, irrelevant people, but we have no money to pay critical workers of this country. Do you know how labor-intensive health workers, because you have to, it's not even like a classroom where you put 40 children or even 100 in the situation of Nairobi. You put 130 children in one class and it is only one teacher who stands there and issues instructions.
Yes.
That is in education. But in health, they actually have to touch each and every patient. They have to touch each and every body part. It is the ear. They look at it and they look at it properly. That is how, those are the kinds of people that we are dodging in the air and asking, we want to pay, we don't want to pay you. And then there are some people called CASs. I don't even know what they're coming to do. By saying what they're coming to do, I am talking about the qualifications of the people that we saw being enlisted as CASs. Tell me what value they're coming to add to the public service. And we want to pay them millions. We want to give them fleets of cars. We are not serious. We are not serious. There is money in this country to pay people. There is money. Let interns, let doctors, let teachers, let them be paid properly. Because this is a demonstration that there is money to pay people.
So you're saying essentially that if there was an I guess a Damascus moment where the government would realize that, you know what, actually the things that you're saying today, and said, all right, let us do what we agreed, that we could end this thing today.
Yes, I know that we could end these things today because I have seen government waking up today and doing very funny things. Yesterday I was having a conversation with someone from Kiambu. And they were telling me that the government of Kiambu is giving every household a vifaranga.
Every?
I don't want to laugh because...
every?
Yes, vifaranga,
Yes, chicks.
Chicks, the chicks, 1-day-old chicks. And it will bother you the amount of money that has been allocated to that.
I'm asking every.
Not accompanied by data, by research, by M&D, that we gave you 5... And then do you have feeds? You can imagine giving an old lady some 5 chicks, so where does she get the feeds? Where does she get the vaccine?
Where is
she keeping them? So 2 or 3 will die. Let me tell you, we actually have got money in this country. The only problem is that I don't know what plans people are implementing. And what we have realized is that people are implementing populist or campaign-oriented projects. It is for the same reason that you look at people in this county of Nairobi saying that we don't have this, we don't have the other, but we have 1.9 billion every year for broken rice and beans to schools. 1.9 billion every year, a budget higher than our health budget. That is how we are as a people. Imagining that 1.9 billion is feeding, I saw Sakaja giving the data yesterday, give or take 150,000. That's, you're spending 1.9 billion to feed 150. And then throwing some 700 million somewhere. I wish you'd see the photos that go around. That drugs have been taken to a dispensary in a carton, 1 carton. And it is celebrated, and the photos are all over. It is not a laughing matter. It is something that we really must be sad about. That how are we doing things? If you think that the health budget for Nairobi of 2 billion caters for the 5 million residents of Nairobi, it's crazy. We cannot do business like that. And that is why I'm telling you one thing that I've said severally. The tone at the top is what is eating us. The tone at the top. Was the ball dropped from the top? The tone at the top. Was the ball dropped from the top? Yes, the top isn't very firm. The top is not giving the right bearing. The talk is just speaking. The talk is the top is just talk show. The talk is is just from promise to promise. The top is just dodging issues. So everybody acquires that attitude. I will tell you an example of when Kibaki came in as a president. The tone at the top. Let me tell you, corruption reduced by half. The tone at the top. Because you already know that the person at the top how they perceive things, how they do things, their record, and how they speak about some of these things.
Let's take a break on the top. Janet Ouko is our guest this hour, and we're looking at certain things and asking, where did we drop the ball? Conversations are being had in the country at the moment in terms of what's going to happen with health workers, what's going to happen with the health situation in the country over the coming days. CS Nahumicha says that this week, yesterday, even this thing will be over. Will it? That's the question. Education is, many have called a silent disaster. Right now at the moment, we've not gotten to the point whereby we have teachers on the streets or anything like that, but many could say that there is a big problem with this as well. We're going back to school in about 3 weeks, some 2 weeks, some 3, and we left last term with maybe some capitation having been paid, some. And we had a previous conversation where the CS told us that 5,000 shillings that they had taken off capitation would be returned sometime this year. I mean, where are we going? The front page of the Standard today tells us about how this payment of the e-citizen has been refused by members of parliament towards the 22222 number, saying that it would disrupt school finances, which already are in a mess because of the lack of capitation being sent in a good time. Who dropped the ball here? What's the tone at the top for education?
I have no beef, and I am refusing to have a conversation with the Cabinet Secretary Education. Tone at the top. That guy has no ability to release capitation to schools. There is only one man who does not believe in free education in this country, and that person is the president of this country. If you can imagine, he does not believe in free education. He does not believe. I have evidence that one day his own PS, Belio Kipsang, said that they are rethinking the issue of free education. And he actually confirmed to us that they are going to be reducing the amount of capitation that they send to schools, which they actually did. That in itself tells you about people that do not believe in free education. And I want to take a minute to tell them what we mean by free and compulsory education. That it is not anything that anybody, including a head of state, can take away from any child, because it is given to every child of this country by our constitution under Article 53, the Bill of Rights. It is the right of every child to enjoy free and compulsory education. It is not something that a cocoon of people sat down somewhere and agreed. It is out of the declaration of the world. The world declared all the way from 1990 when people went to Jomti in Thailand. And people agreed that the biggest barrier to education for any child is levies. And from 1990 coming all the way to where we are now, countries have worked towards eliminating levies. Every country, it is only Kenya that is working backwards. And that is why I'm telling you about the tone at the top. If you have somebody that believes that all these billions that go towards education do not come back, because of course, this money that is going to children don't have kickbacks. There are no kickbacks for 268 billion. There are no kickbacks. Makes it very unattractive to fund education. But I want to tell the president today that this is the biggest mistake that his government is committing. You found capitation grant per child being 22,000 per child, and it was not even sufficient. It wasn't sufficient. You cannot take a shilling out of that money and was so without rationale. Rationalize. Come with reason and put reason on the table. That because of these efficiencies that we have now introduced, we are making savings here and there. But you cannot find the situation as bad as it is. Then you go ahead and withhold some monies and take them to places where you think is more strategic. And then you don't even exercise fidelity in sending the little that is left. No. And that is why I'm telling you that we have people that don't believe in the Constitution. It is everything about the Constitution. I see people canvassing very funny ideas that parents must also pay little. This is not a conversation that we want to have based on any manifesto of any political party. We are refusing to have that conversation.
Janet, it's not an idea. There are parents who are paying the extra because it does not come from capitation. It's not an idea. It's not a fantasy. It's a reality. It's happening today.
And let me tell you, you see, even with the 22,000 capitation grant, the 22,000, parents would still pay because 22,000 is not sufficient. Parents would still pay. So reducing that is actually making the problem worse. And this is what the heads of schools have done. Because I saw the other time, the government of Kenya inciting parents against their principals. If the government has not sent money to schools, principals must charge money because your child has to eat. The school has to go on, processes must run, principals must charge money. And this is why we are saying we are now experiencing the privatization of education that is championed by government. What kind of a government is that champions the privatization? What kind of a government would issue a pay bill number? What kind of a government would actually consciously issue a pay bill number that parents pay through this? What admission are you making? Why isn't that government impeached in the first place? It does not believe in the constitution, that the constitution that you swore to defend, that I shall give and ensure that I give every child of this country compulsory, free, basic education. We are not telling you to give everybody university education. That is not what the Constitution says. The Constitution is telling you, from 0 to 18 years, can your government ensure that you support free and compulsory education? Clearly, and giving us evidence, we have a government that is telling parents, pay, using this number. What kind of a government is that?
Leonard, let me ask this question. When you say that this is a government that is clearly and visibly privatizing education, is there evidence to support that view?
Yes, there is evidence. Government has released a pay bill number. To pay for what? To pay for what service? To pay for what service? It has released a pay bill number that parents pay using this number.
The rationale was that school fees be paid to that pay bill number because what they wanted to do was make sure one of two things. Number one, that this extra charging from certain schools did not come into play, that we know what school fees are supposed to be. It would come, and as you pay, it goes directly to that school, and then at the same time, so they could regularize all these payments and there would not be these extras.
You know, the problem is we are having a busybody government. A busybody is someone who fixes what is already working, and they clearly ignore what is not working, which they should be fixing. The moment you release a pay bill number to national schools, because it was not even released to every school.
No.
The government first said to national schools. Let me ask you, this is a big joke. Is the government thinking that they can manage Mangu High School better than the parents of that school? Can you imagine that government is saying your own money, the 22,000 that you're supposed to be sending to every child in that school, you're not sending. And you're not addressing that. You have now come to start to telling parents who are infidelity, doing their job, which it's actually your job. They're doing your job. And they have arranged themselves into committees. They have arranged themselves in BOMs. It's very beautiful. I had my daughter in Alliance. And the kind of BOM that we are speaking about there, we're speaking about engineers. We're speaking about doctors. We're speaking about... And then you see a government coming to tell you that we want to panga the school fees that we are paying. These are busy bodies who want to fix what is working, and they have not been able to fix what is not working. Fix your capitation grant. Show us, what are your audits? Let me ask you, can the government of Kenya today produce one audit for one school? They don't have. Then they're asking parents who run their accounts very well, complete with audit reports. There is no complaint. Children have not complained that there is one day we went without bread. You want to give government money, and those children, they will drink porridge because government will have already squandered the parents' money.
I want to look at that capitation grant because it's a pain point for me. I do not understand. I've asked this question a number of times. This money that goes into capitation is budgeted for. It takes the lion's share of the education budget. And so when a budget is presented, the education budget takes up almost a third of the national budget, right?
26% thereabout,
almost
the national budget.
Exactly. So capitation now takes up a major percent of that budget now that we're talking about, of the 600 odd billion. when money should be released to schools, because essentially you're saying wherever you get the money from, we're saying that as the term starts, you're sending about 40% in the first term, you're sending about another 30%,
50%,
50,
30%,
and then 30
and then 20%.
Exactly. First, second, third. Thank you. And then you don't do that.
Yes.
Why? What's the problem? Where is this money going? I would really want to understand, where is the money going? The PS said very clearly to us that don't even start making noise, because this money that we're actually sending is not all these things you want to pay, buy a bus, etc., etc. It is tuition money. That's what he said. This is tuition money. Tuition and tuition related expenses money. But still, if it does not go to schools, and we're looking at 54 billion out over the last 5 years, where does it go?
You know, there's something I don't understand. Perhaps you'll help me understand. This 26% of our national budget, what is it supposed to pay for?
For education?
Yes. What are the items that are supposed to consume this 26%?
The 26% of the national budget is the entire budget that goes to all education functions, including payment, including what goes to TSC, including what goes to payment of capitation grants, running within administrative costs within the Ministry of Education, and all that.
If we were to compute the amount, what is 26% of the budget that we have for this year?
It's almost 700 billion.
700 billion.
Almost. It gets there.
So, are we saying that when we look around, we can see evidence that 700 billion shillings has been spent in our public schools? Is it?
We can do that. We can do that in isolation. There are functions that are running so well.
Yes.
Like the Teacher Service Commission.
Yes.
You know, we have not had teachers going without pay.
No, teachers get paid.
That is running so well. Now let's come to the Ministry of Education, that now runs everything together with the SAGAs.
Everything
the
else.
Autonomous government agencies within that. So because of how government operates it's closed. You know, you're not able to know details. I don't know how in Africa we will be able to really open up government to scrutiny. But now the only thing that is letting us in, we are knowing about capitation grants because we are parents in schools. And so when you go to schools and the head teacher tells you that this year, for example, and it's not like we are speaking without evidence. We have the evidence. We have concluded the first term.
Yes.
So this is what happened with the first term. For the first term, schools are supposed to receive 50% of the capitation per year, what they're supposed to receive. I do not know now. I used to know during the last regime that we were doing 22,000 Kenya shillings per child.
Yes.
Right now, I do not know whether it is 16,000, whether it is 12,000, whether it is 10. Nobody knows how much exactly this government is spending per child. Nobody knows. Now, they were supposed to receive 50% of whatever it is. They only received 25,000 and ran with the 25,000. There was a lot of strain, and then there was a lot of complaints and a lot of uproar. And then this is what your intelligent government did, because it's one government that manages you at every towards the end of the term. They sent 25,000. The balance of 25,000 that they were supposed to have sent initially. So this is what will happen. At second term, they're not going to be sending anything because they will send you, but we sent you money when schools were closing. So essentially, you did not do anything with that money. Imagine.
And that money was supposed to intended for that term which has ended.
For that term which has ended. So they will run with that narrative until towards the end of second term. Meanwhile, schools have sorted themselves. They have asked, they have charged.
They've told the parents.
They have charged parents to bring money. So towards the second term, they will release, something little that will now run them throughout. And for the year, this government will not have sent 40% of what they're supposed to send to schools. Teachers cannot ask anything. Teachers cannot talk because they are employees of that particular government. So really, the government gets away.
Let's give you some numbers. I mean, we saw some of these numbers last week. Esther Suka last year, of the 11,000 that was supposed to be sent, in the first term, because remember we split, right? So we're looking at 50, 30, 20. Of the 11,000 that was sent, that was supposed to be sent, only 6,709 was sent. In second term, of the 6,000 that was supposed to be sent, only 2,524 was sent. Of the 4,000 then that was supposed to be sent in third term, only 1,122 was sent. So if you look at the global figure of 17,000, only 10,355 was sent. So now when you want to take that and extrapolate, that is when you're going to have a big figure of a deficit of 38 billion shillings that was not released for capitation in the year ended. That's what we're talking about.
So, and that's why I keep saying, in civilized societies, somebody should be saying that we did not send. We sent a common 10,000 per child. I like speaking per child. We sent a common 10,100. We were supposed to send 17,000. Do you believe there's somebody in this country who owes us an accountability statement that we did not send 7,000 because of A, B, C, and D? Now, there is another level of accountability. The functions that were supposed to have been performed by the 7,000 that we did not send, we acknowledge that it is debt, or we even acknowledge that it is a contribution of parents. That is what civilized societies do. But this is what conmen do. Conmen don't bother about that. They will stand somewhere and tell her, we have released 30 billion to schools. It is not okay. It is not okay, good people. It is not okay. And when we think that this sort of dodging and can help anybody, we are actually killing children. I know there has never been the kind of school dropout that there is in Nairobi today. Right from primary school to secondary school. Because I can bet you, as we open schools for second term, their teachers are not going to be letting anybody with fee balance.
Oh, 100%.
They're not going to be letting anybody with fee balance to enter school.
No, Janet. They did not let anybody with a fee balance of the first term to come back at half term of the first term.
You see that?
Half term of the first term, students with fee balances were not allowed to return without the presence of their parents. So what they're requesting, or rather demanding that should happen now, is that as you're returning for the second term, you must come with your fees having been paid.
Not a parent. This time you come with money. Don't come with muzazi.
If you have not paid, come with the payment as you are coming to school.
Yes.
It's not a question of can we, shall we.
Do you agree with me that this government is supporting the privatization of education? Since when did parents, free secondary education is a 15-year-old, is an adolescent program. So you cannot now come in and wreck it and look at us in the face and expect that we are not going to be seeing the liar that you are. No. We shall call you out. We shall tell us, own up that no, I am not funding free education. But don't pretend like you're funding and you're not. We shall tell you you're not.
Remember, one of the things that happened when Kibaki enshrined this free education system, enrollments rose.
1 million children came back to school.
Yes. And the reason why you could say it worked is because they stayed in school.
Yes.
Okay? Now, if you have a situation where the numbers are dropping, what does it tell you? The situation that enabled them to actually be in school no longer exists. The very thing that kept them out of school was money to pay for that education. The free education cured that. So now that there's a demand for payment, again, we have a situation where very many of those parents will not have the money to pay.
And at higher levels, this situation is worst, especially at day schools. Because day schools are the ones that really take the destitute, the poorest of the poor.
And they're the ones which take the largest number of learners.
The largest number of learners.
Yes.
And now the situation, even when you visit schools like Mangu, the Muranga Highs, they will tell you, we are no longer doing things like we used to do. Schools can no longer print their books. You remember the way we had books printed
with the school names.
And so they're no longer doing that. Parents are coming in with exercise books. So
you're actually required as a parent.
Yes, to do that. If Kenyans can actually not see this kind of change, and that is why I said that a few weeks ago we have seen the ruling political party calling out for elections and so on and so forth. And I'm asking, you citizens of this country that shall queue, what ideologies of that political party are you supporting? Not to wonder that you shall go queuing on Monday to vote for that political party, and you have left your child at home. They have not gone to school because that particular ruling political party has not and does not believe in the right to free education. It does not believe in universal health coverage. It doesn't believe in that. It doesn't believe in constitutionalism. So what exactly? Because we are, the problem is that even our economics is dictated by the kind of political leaders that we have. That's the saddest bit about it. Mm-hmm. So we have to really make decisions about the leadership that we want. And we have seen leadership is discipline. Leadership is what you believe in. Leadership is evidence of who you have been over time. That is why we have CVs. You know a CV. A CV is when I meet you today, I don't know you. But when I dig through your pages, I'm able to know, okay, you worked here for this particular time, and then these are some of the things that you did. Yeah, I can believe that you're this one committed person. I believe in your integrity. You look like you have character. You look like Kenyans really. We must begin believing in those things. And when you see that people like the US believe and they hold you dear, there's some things that have happened with some leaders, and I think if that was a particular leader in the US, for example, they would resign the following morning. But what do we believe in as a people? We are as bad as our leaders, because it is us that will queue. It is us that will disregard. We are corrupt. It is us that will disregard that you don't believe in this, but because you're giving me 1,000 shillings, I am happy to trade. I'm happy to trade important things such as deciding who will be the chief executive of our county. The other day, I was seeing a photo doing round of the governor of Nairobi. I have nothing against him. But you cannot have a medical crisis like the one we have here. You cannot have floods ravaging the city and you're dancing in some sand dunes in Dubai. No problem dancing. But does it send the right message of you, of the people that elected you? Do you think that this message and what is happening at the background really both resonate? Tells us about your character, tells us about your personality.
The question here, Janet, is
yes.
You actually think they care?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying about their character.
You see, there's a presumption that when people are in these political positions, note, I've left the word leadership. Positions. That they actually understand that they are accountable to the people who elected them, and that they're actually supposed to ensure that they work day and night to ensure that the citizenry have the provision of services that is actually due to them. I don't think they give a flying hoot about these things.
We have evidence in this country. We have evidence that those of us that lived during Moi regime,
yes.
And so literally everything fell. Everything fell off. There was no single parastatal that even had a placard saying that, everything fell off. And then came one gentleman in the name of Mwai Kibaki. The kind of work that he did for this country inspires confidence that surely there can be a political leader. We can one day have one person that can pick things from where they were without even explaining. That for 24 years, we found everything having fallen off, so we have not performed because 24 years,
that history, not
even once did Moi ever feature in Kibaki's lips.
Nope.
Not even withstanding the fact that his own background was that they were on and off with Moi. In terms of, you cannot really say that Kibaki was on the table during a lot of Moi's decision making, especially during his later years, the final years of Moi. We cannot have somebody who cannot take responsibility for anything.
For the now.
Anything, including when we all know so well where he sat during that regime. We are not doing well as a country for sure, good people. We cannot. And we cannot keep giving every small example. How would you explain that a fake fertilizer can be bearing the logo of a national organization? I would be happy if it was a River Road thing. NCPB. This is what I told you. The audacity tells you something about the tone at the top.
Wrapping it up, Janet, I mean, I don't think we can put a wrap around this conversation. I think there are very many things that continually need to be talked about. My personal opinion is that having these conversations puts these issues front and center.
Sure.
It puts them front and center, and that's why it's important to continue talking about them, because one of two things can happen. One, something is done. Number two, somebody else continues talking about it. Very quickly as we wrap up, though, where should we? Where can we go with what we are faced with today? Where can we actually go?
I think revolutionaries should now gather. We must rescue this country. We cannot continue knocking the doors of cabinet secretaries, because we know that there is one person that is making them continue being in office. There is only one person who knows why he has put that kind of people in the places that he has put them. It is time that people told the president of this country in no uncertain terms that really this is our country. Even if you do not believe in some of these things that we are saying, we already know that there is a certain way of doing things. You cannot say that you will deal firmly with corrupt individuals, but we have not seen you doing anything. We have refused any more promises coming from your lips. We cannot believe you is a message that people are telling their president. Stop telling us the economy is taking shape. We want to see our children in school. We want to see our mothers, we want to see our relatives being treated when they go to hospitals. That is what we want to see. We do not want to hear any more word from you telling us that the economy is taking shape. We want to experience it. We want to see it.
Janet Ouko, thank you very much for being our guest this hour. The conversations absolutely must continue until we talk again the next time. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.